It's Mark Husson's Astrology Hour. Time for you to expect something wonderful.
Well, hello everybody and welcome. It's Mark Husson and this is the Mark Husson Astrology Hour. How are you doing? It is September 25th. Woo, Lord, I hope you had a good weekend. It is about 1 minute after 8 a.m. on the Pacific Coast, a little after 11 a.m. on the East Coast. It's so good to be with you on this Monday, Aquarius moon. I am so happy that we made it through this autumn adventure. Okay, this sounds great. I am so happy I just got have my attention a little pulled because I'm playing with my software a little bit, and I always make sure that I didn't ruin anything. So I have Jay in the back telling me that we're on and live and sounding good. So if you're first time comer to the show, you can come join us in the Facebook chat room by simply going over to 12radio.com. That's 12radio.com. And on the left-hand column, click the chat button and you'll be brought into our amazing chat room. And in the chat room, at the top there, it says discussion. Make sure that's done. And Jace put up the banner, Mark Husson's Astrology Hour. And if you scroll down a little bit, people are starting to comment. Oh my goodness. Truly's in the house. Hi, Truly. Lynn's here. She says traveling in Michigan today, so may need to listen later. But Lynn, thanks for joining us. Anyway, this is so sweet. And do listen later if you can. I love rebellious and random rants about things we barely understand. She reads me. I love that. Thank you. Val, thank you. It's Monday. So happy to be here live. Thanks, Mark and Jay. That is so funny. Thank you, Val. You're just so nice to be here. Always sweet. Erica's in from England. Thank you. Huge hugs to everyone. Blessings from wild, sunny Celtic Cornwall. She makes me so envious. I love that. Lioness, thanks for being here. And thank you all for joining. I'll check in the chat room periodically, see how you're doing. Astrology is always moving and it always gives me something to say. I always joke about not having something to say. I think it's my, I never thought I had this Gabby gift, but I remember a high school civics teacher said that I had the gift of gab, and I took it as an insult. And then I realized, God, she must be right, because I never stop talking, except when I'm in public and need to say something nice to somebody. The words aren't there. What can I say? I've been doing a lot of research for the show. I've found some amazing books. And I know the more I read go back to the simple things, the more it sort of blows my mind. I recently found a book by way of John, who is always reading, Cosmic Loom. And this man is kind of blowing my mind, written back in the 80s. And he's sort of coming at astrology from an intellectual point of view, no question, but he's doing the thing that, we are always seeming to do, which is like trying to prove astrology works. But he's not doing it in that way. He's basically just saying, there's some of the most brilliant minds that have ever existed recognize the interrelationship between the cosmic dance and us. I mean, if there is a perfect order in the sky and space in the solar system, then why can't there be a perfect order with us in the same way? Like, why aren't we interconnected in that way? And it's sort of the way he brings it around is like, it's not that the planets we see something they're doing and then now we expect it to affect us, right? It's the same happening at the same time, like up there, down here, up there. Like there's an emotional, no, there's not emotional. It's a literal harmony that sort of keeps us in sync and keeps us in tune. And so to predict the future is kind of laughable, because I don't think we're that smart yet. I know I'm not, but to make an assumption, to sort of, see that something is going on in the sky that might also reflect what's happening down here is kind of brilliant. And so when you run a birth chart and you have that sort of picture of where space was when you were born, we see an evolution. Now it's sort of, we're not getting into the nuance of every moment of your life is now stamped and indelible. I mean, we don't know that it's us and our behavior that isn't affecting the behavior of the planets. I mean, it's in sync. It's one and the same. And so and it is the closest thing. It's like science that's evolving, and it's always evolving. And as humans, we do what we usually do in the negative, which is we just dirty something up, right? I mean, somebody saw that the horoscopes can predict. So the horoscopes everywhere, horoscopes in the daily news, horoscopes and people began to think that's what astrology was. The astrology of predicting my behavior based on what day I was born, period. Forget the year, just what day I was born. I'm a Cancer, so it has to be this. And so we have its naysayers because of that. Like, it got muddied, right? It's like somebody's always, it's like there's always somebody taking the cheapest shot, spreading fear, spreading lies, not telling the truth, but speaking as if it was the truth. That still happens every day, right? We see it every day. You see people lying, but speaking as if it's the truth, speaking as if it's just a known fact. And what we read, what we hear, honestly, still to this day, we tend to believe. And the cognitive dissonance part, the part where if we hear something that doesn't fit what we expect it to believe, and there's a whole thing about that it's a whole psychology. In fact, it was so funny the other day, I got obsessed about this psychology of what it is when somebody tells you something and then you see it everywhere, like the frequency, okay, of something happening. And that's called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. And it's not real. In other words, it's this false impression that something happens more frequently than it actually does. So somebody tells you the new car they bought. Now that's all I see is that new car. And it occurs when we learn something new as well. Like, so we have this new awareness and now we're paying attention to that new awareness. Now that's very similar to what is known in psychology as confirmation bias, which leads us to notice things that we already believe, right? So we start confirming, like, it's the coldest autumn we've ever had. And so every hot day you're sort of ignoring. But then when it's a cold morning, you're like, see, I knew it. And so, and we all do it. It's sort of like a thing. But the point is that what we hear, if you already don't believe in astrology, quote unquote, believe in astrology, then, you're going to be, every horoscope you read is going to be see, so it's not to bash horoscopes, because we have some great horoscope writers over at 12listen.com who are spending a lot of time putting energy into predictions, but they're using a psychic component to themselves, right? They're putting together a psychic energy about what's kind of the energy surrounding a particular portion of our culture. Like what's surrounding Aries this week, or what's surrounding Taurus this week. You'd be smart not to buy 100% of what you read to believe it, but you might use it as to see if you can confirm or deny that's you. But it's hard to do if you already don't have a foundation about it. So you're listening to this show. There's a good chance you already believe in it a little bit. So my job is, I just want to, as I learn more, I want to bring you more. And I know that we just learned about the parents in the horoscope. We call it the horoscope. The chart is the horoscope, not horoscope like the prediction things I was talking about. But we talk about parents in the chart, in your birth chart. And a lot of people, I had a ton of questions about that I want to address. And also I want to talk to you about the upcoming week ahead and sort of how we're dealing with things. Now, remember, this is an Aquarius moon. So those of you that are, let's say, Aquarius or Aquarius risings, or people with the sun conjunct Uranus, which is next to Uranus, or the moon next to Uranus, those guys, you're going to feel some uplift. You're going to feel a little mental charge, hopefully some some coming up from the heaviness of Capricorn, because that Capricorn moon over the weekend, I don't know about you guys, but it is sobriety times 10. It's like, take off those rose-colored glasses and look at what mess you have in front of you. It's awful. And so when we get to the Aquarius moon, we're kind of relieved. At least I am. And I am so grateful that we have those changes, because that moon can tell you a little bit about your relationship to that sign, and consequently the relationship to that area of your life in your chart. Wherever you have Capricorn, for example, that moon is activating. And now it's in Aquarius. So wherever it is in your chart, you're looking a little more with confirmation bias through the moon of Aquarius, right? Meaning that it's in my fourth house, so everything's going to be related to the home or to father issues. Or, I think that's why I want to talk about the parental axis again, because my dad was the fourth house is your father, and my fourth house is Aquarius. So it brings up that sort of looking. I mean, and it's so funny. It is so funny that you look at, you never stop looking through this lens, like this particular lens. Like it was like yesterday when I was a kid. It was yesterday when my father was raising me, or my mother was raising me, whoever. And it was yesterday that some of those wounds happened. And so I noticed that the more distance I get, and I have been really craving distance from, this is an Aquarian thing too, right? I've been craving distance. I want to be separate from everything that knew me in the past, just for a while, just for a minute, so I can look new upon my world without seeing it through the eyes of somebody else who knew me, And that's been really helpful. But that's me. That's that fourth house. It's like I take the position of my dad, who looked in my world at me through the lens of an alien. Now, see, that's what I want to talk to you about. What you have on your fourth house cusp, the very bottom of your chart, the lowest point, what you have sitting on that line, the planet, the sign that's on that line, is the filter of which you saw your parent. Now, the fourth house is the filter of which you saw your father. The 10th house is the filter at which you saw your mother. And it's not who they were. It's a really important distinction. You have to really fight this feeling of, well, I saw her as this. Well, okay, but then in doing that, you're also saying you're denying this other part of you in yourself. You're seeing it in her, but not seeing it in you. You're seeing it in him, not seeing it in you. It's about projection. It's about the filter and the lens which we saw and viewed our parents. Very important. A very important distinction, because you are going to talk to your siblings. My dad loved his daughters. I'm not saying he hated me. I saw through this lens, he loved his daughters. He took them to camp with him for 6 weeks. He would practice their exercises with them. He took them with him. And I was sort of like my mom nagging my dad, take your son with you. And, but and you feel that. I was like, come on, let's go. And I always feel like I'm playing a violin for myself. I'm not. I'm a Sun-Uranus conjunction. I reveled in my aloneness. I reveled in him not wanting to be close to me. I didn't want to be close to him. That's the Aquarius part. I reveled in the separation. And yet there was separation. And whatever projection is in there, I get to work through with my own therapy, right? But the idea is he wasn't distant to a lot of people. He was not distant. I mean, people lined up for his funeral more than any other relative we ever had. They adored this man. He was the cancer of the community, like cancer in the Cancer the Crab mothering way. He was the guy that people just adored. He never was shocked. He was always for you. He went to fight for you. You could tell him anything and he would be there for you, right? That's how the world saw him. That's how my sisters saw him. And yet I couldn't get through my projection, my Aquarius projection there. It was like he was far away from me. And maybe it was the trip he took for 6 weeks. I don't know. Or maybe, he left me with crazy woman. I don't know. But I know that That's the filter. So that's what you have to do when you're looking at your chart. You have to see the filter that you're looking through. So the propensity I had and my confirmation bias, why I'm talking about that, is I have a bias that he was distant, that he be distant. And so every time he was, it registered. And every time he was kind or moral or sweet or trying with me, it didn't register. That's the propensity. That's the confirmation bias. And if you're willing to admit it, which I am, like it's hard, but I'm willing to admit he might have given me some good effort, then you can start reclaiming some of that projection back to where you do that to yourself. When I'm angst or when I feel like I need some paternal support, abandon myself. Okay, you can do that with each of the signs, and we'll go through them over and over. Like today, we're talking the Aquarius moon, so I'm talking about father on the 4th. Now move that up to mother. In the same way, a lot of times with Aquarius on the 4th, the perception is mother was brilliant, but removed. Like the phrase for this is all the lights are on, like she did everything, but no one was home. So there was a kind of like she lived an ideological life. In other words, she had a picture of what the family should be. She had a picture of what mother should be. She had a picture of what children should be. And that's where she moved. That's how she acted. Now, if you have Aquarius at the midheaven, at the very top noon part of your chart, that's how you're going to view mom. Typically, that's the projection. Okay. So now you're going to have people and siblings possibly who saw her as the most loving, kind, caring, hardworking woman you've ever met. But your lens is different because it's yours. We have nothing but our projection. What we do, what we see, what we are, who this world is put together is being lensed at us through a filter. It has to be. You see a certain color you hate, you like. It's all based on something else. We're not always aware of it. And therefore the shadow looms, right? So really fun stuff to play with. And that's why I want you to pay attention when the moon changes signs. And that in the Power Peak, which we do every week, and I invite everyone to be a part of the Power Peak, is come and it's at markhusson.com or Mark's Power Peak, PEEK, .com. The password this week is open, and get in and take a look at where the moon is. And when you see the moon and you see two moons and it says void, of course, I know that gets confusing, but you'll see that the moon is in a particular sign until a certain time. And today you'll see it in Aquarius. And then you'll see that it'll soon be changing and going into Pisces. And when it goes into Pisces, we will have a distinct shift in what affects us. Distinct, because Aquarius is fixed air. We have this, it's so, the radical difference between those two is so fun to watch. Okay, going from a fixed sign to a mutable sign, going from an air sign to a water sign. Fun to feel. And that leads us to the upcoming full moon, which is happening Friday in Aries. And so, that's a super moon. It's supposedly the last of the super moons of the year. And super moon just means it's super close. So we have a moon that's going to be really close to the earth. It's going to be big in the sky. You're going to be able to see it. If you get out early enough, it'll be super large. And it's fun. Those are fun moons because there's something about the moon, isn't there? I mean, there's just something about that thing that's sort of otherworldly, which it literally is. So keep an eye on that. Now I'm going to take a look real quick in the room and say hi to Laura. Thank you for being here. Karen Erickson, she met a double Gemini who doesn't believe in astrology. I didn't bother to debate. Not worth my time. Amen. She wanted a reading. I was happy someone changed the subject. It's funny. The Gemini thing too is so funny because that's a position she's taking for the moment because later we might be seeing something completely different. Nancy, thanks for being here. Happy Monday. She's cleaning. She's cleaning the house before the cleaning lady arrives. Yes, God, don't we know that one? I was interviewing a cleaning lady once, a nice woman. She we did her chart, right? Of course. She was loving it and everything. And she just assumed she had the job. Like, we were so friendly that she had the job, and we're laughing. And I am deceitful that way. Like, I don't want people to, I have a moon on the ascendant, so people know what I'm feeling usually. So I work hard at pretending it's not that. And as she's leaving, and I thought she might work. This is kind of fun. She goes, now you all know you have to pick up before I come, right? And that did it for me. So I was like, of course, wimp that I am. I said, John, you have to call her and deal with that. We're not having her. I'm not having that. I'm not being told what to do in my home. I get so self-righteous. It's fun. And he did. He told her that, and he gave her some reason, but it was also like, it had to do with me. It was great, but God bless John. That's all I can say. Good morning, my supportive 1-2 tribe. Mark, I've been reading about Lilith and what she represents. I know it isn't your favorite part of astrology, but would you consider sharing your thoughts on it? And since I'm asking, my 4th house is in Virgo and nothing in it except Lilith, am I in trouble? Well, you're right, Alicia. I don't know a lot. I put a lot of attention there, but if you're willing to throw asteroids in your chart, you're going to find something in every house, right? But according to Magi, your chart is your path, is your savior. It's your map. It's your glorification of who you are. And nothing in the chart is bad. Nothing. And so if Lilith is in the 4th and you have Virgo on the 4th, we have to look at your relationship to dad, like seeing the lens. And that would suggest that your lens looking at dad was that he was either super perfect or had standards of perfection that you were required to meet, or super strict sometimes, or super service oriented. But the lens through that you have to see. And if Lilith is in there, you have to see, you can color that yourself with what your dad was, like how that affected you in relationship to your dad. Now, see, I don't put asteroids in the chart except for Chiron. Excuse me. And I don't mind that people do that, but I really think anything that you're going to put in there there's a reason for it, like as above, so below. So I would start doing some research on Lilith and seeing what's going on. But I don't want to address it because I don't do a lot of study there. All right. I feel like there's too much for me with what I got, but you're good to ask. Let's see. Pamela, thank you. Suzanne, welcome. Great for this Aquarian to hear you live today. The Capricorn moon jerked me around. We used to call it the crappy moon, Cappy moon, because I would be so thrown by that moon. But I am so much better at it now because there's a certain amount of anticipation. Like, okay, rose-colored glasses are off. And then if I'm looking at something like my bank account that's going to depress me, then I just don't. Or I prepare in whatever way. Jackie Walsh, feeling discombobulated, hoping you will combobulate me. Jackie and the word lady. I love it. I love it. I love it. Welcome, Jackie. We'll combobulate you. I feel like I finally got in gear. This is Val, to take action over the Capricorn moon to devote to myself and honor. To devote to myself honor. And my inner dialogue is so much sweeter. Super grateful that it's a big change from the old dialogue with Saturn and my moon. I'm 10th in Gemini. Okay. In the 10th with Gemini, I'm sure. Val, that's very powerful. It is about, we can change our response to knowing that energy is with us. Instead of, when we feel separate from the synergies, from the synergistic effects of the planets, we feel separate. We sort of say, I should be happy. But the energies around us are saying there's a little bit more somber mood here. If you join into the chorus and quit singing off key, you might enjoy it. You might find some harmony. And that is exactly what you're talking about. So good job. Good for you. I think I'm finding that same pitch, even though some moons are sometimes I just give in and go, blech, I can't fight this. And it's okay. Maureen, good morning. Hi, Terry. Thank you so much. You're so very kind. So what we have to do, I think, or what we want to do is remember that the path, the use of astrology is for the goal. The goal is our happiness. It's just peace. It's not to beat the system. It's not to, oh, Mercury retrograde's coming, so I've got to hurry up and sign this thing, right? A friend of mine had an emergency tooth extraction on a void of course moon. And I had that day planned to do vaccines. Now, I'm not virtue signaling when I talk about vaccines. I was accused of that on Facebook years ago, and it offended me so badly because I didn't understand what they were saying. I was just sort of saying, I got them. And then I realized to a lot of people, confirmation bias would assume that they are looking for people who were bragging about getting a vaccine. Now, if you don't want to get a vaccine, I've changed my position on this completely. That is so your choice. Good for you. Whatever. I want them. Okay. I don't like being sick. I do believe my science. That's just me now, please. So, and I am around people who will not get them. So it doesn't matter. I don't care. I want to be protected. That's all for me. And they have their own form of protection. Because when I got the last COVID booster, I got COVID. Mild, but I got it. And I was like, wow. So I don't fully understand it. I don't care. I don't care what people's choices are. I got all three of them Friday and it knocked my ass out. I got RSV, the flu, and the COVID boosters. So I did it. And because I just did it. Okay. So I'm not telling you how to do it. And I would never judge you for not doing it. I just talked to my neighbor. She was on a walk. We met. She's like, I will never do it because the first one I did made me so sick. And I go, I get it totally. And I don't even like telling people. But the reason I'm saying this is I had scheduled my vaccines. This is part of the story. And my friend had this emergency tooth needed to be taken out. So here I'm ready to go to my vaccines. And I looked at the calendar and I was like, it is all day void of course moon. You know, that shit is not me. That's me. I'm like, that is not me. I'm not doing it. And then I said, I'm going to do it anyway. So I can have a story to tell. I'll make the appointment. So I made the appointment and we get her appointment to the dentist. Now, do you think she's in misery? I'm going to say it's a void of course moon. You shouldn't do this. She's miserable. Like her tooth exploded. So she didn't have a dentist, so we found one, go down, and then I'm thinking, I better cancel my vaccine because I'm not going to be able to do it. This is going to take some time. And so I canceled them, and sure enough, so much good happened. She had a great surgery, met a great surgeon. Everything worked out fine. She's healing beautifully. No side effects. Void of course moon, perfect score for the good guys to say do things on the void of course moon. Me, on the other hand, the fact that I waited a week, the booster hadn't been out yet. There was no COVID booster for the new variant anywhere. And I waited and I found a place that had them. And she was great too. I went to Sam's to get it done. And this woman was like, are you getting the RSV? And I go, well, I was debating. She goes, don't debate. Just get in there and let's get it. She goes, if you were my family member, you wouldn't be talking about it. You would just be doing it. And I thought, I like that confidence, honestly. So I let her jab me. And then I'm out for the count for 24 hours. I was admittedly cold, achy, just no energy. And then boom, within 24 hours, I was all good. So that's my story. I don't care if you get shot. Really, I don't. Please. I hate that phrase. I hate the virtue signaling stuff. I hate the phrase itself. It just makes me sick. It's intellectual superiority bullshit. So, but void of course moons don't have to be bad. That's the moral of the story. They can work. When you get emergency surgery, don't be arrogant and think that you get to choose. If you have to be at the hospital, if you have a choice, sure, go for a moon that supports you more emotionally. But this was a surprise. This was a good one for my friend. So it was excellent. Now, back to the point about astrology. If we're in sync, if we feel that we're in sync, then the goal of it is to see these things and flow with them. To recognize that what the upcoming moon is telling you is that's your upcoming mood. That's you. Okay, you are going to be experiencing the Pisces moon in a couple of days. You are experiencing the Aquarius moon. You are the experience of Aquarius moon. You are it. So it's not being done to you, but it is a way to see when we can't see. It's someone like holding up a mirror and saying, here's your projection. It's Aquarius today. So if you feel more feisty today, if you feel more able to say no today, if you feel more able to be a little rebellious today, we can give the reflection of that the moon is reflecting you. Okay. And that's kind of a way to play with it and not just see that you're constantly being bombarded by this energy and you're separate from it. You're a part of it. It's just, we're all dancing in this sea of astrological energies. Now, the full moon has a little bit of a different energy. Not that it's any less separate from us, but the full moon is indicating it's at 6 degrees of Aries. And we look to those because there's alignments happening that seem to be more spectacular than others. And this alignment is that the moon and the sun are exactly opposite. And so we're like in the middle, and we're looking to our left and we see the sun, and we're looking to our right. We see this bright moon. Now, if it were an eclipse, we wouldn't see the moon because our shadow would be on it, right? We would be so directly in the line of sight that it would block the moon. So full moons tend to be this moment of the fullest light of the moon, symbolic again, but a symbolic part of us that we sort of wove through this cycle, a 2-week cycle, actually, from the last, a month cycle from the last full moon to now. And if you would track it on any level, you'd see this evolution. Right now, what we're seeing, this is Libra, Aries. Last one was the Pisces full moon. So if you went from Pisces, which was like connecting to your past, maybe more emotional, maybe issues, I'll say mother issues, mother connections, nostalgia. If you can go back over the last 2 weeks and think about what your mind was, did you get involved in something Piscean, like compassion for other people? Did you have to take care of someone? Did you, whatever, music? Did you learn new music? Did you start looking at your life in a more collective overview, seeing the forest, not the trees? Any of that stuff, that's the culmination that's coming up this Friday, is the setting a new point for that. Now, we could say the new moon it's true for the new moon as well. The new moon sets a new point for us. Going from the new moon in Virgo to the new moon in Libra. And you can see that evolution as well. It's actually more of the beginning cycle to another beginning cycle. And the moon is like the ending cycle to another ending cycle. It's just fun to look at because the reason I use the full moon is because at that point we lose light, right? At the full moon, at the brightest point of the moon, we start shedding light. We start releasing. We start letting go, getting ready for the new moon. So we start basically putting to use the lessons of the first full moon. We start putting the lessons together. We start moving on. Now, and this one is Aries. So what we're going to see is this sort of push for the individual of you. Okay. Like you got to remember Aries is ruled by Mars, and however you experience this moon, it could be your ending, it could be your beginning. It doesn't matter. Ending meaning an ending of a story. It's Mars ruled. And because it's Mars ruled, we're going to be looking at this sort of me first thing. Now, I want you to remember what we use Mars for. The reason Mars is individual is if you're in love with somebody, for example, the way to feel unattached to them, let's say you're codependent with somebody, you're just tied into them. Doesn't even have to be love. Just like, when they're in a bad mood, I'm in a bad mood. Or I'm hoping to keep them in a good mood because I need to be in a good mood. That kind of energy. Well, when you're mad at them, when you don't like them, when they've done something to really make you mad, your Mars comes up, your Aries comes up, and you're like, forget you, I'm done. And you leave, you get independent, you go do something else. You finally don't care what they're feeling. That's the antidote to Neptune. That's the antidote to being merged in. Mars is always, that's why Aries is like seen with head down, ram out, me. because they're breaking free from the tie. And if you want to keep up with them, you can, but typically they're gone. They're out the door. Too much. That's how we all deal with separation when we get too glommed in. So now this full moon might point to where we get tied in and where we are tied in. And it might provide us opportunities to get untied in. Now, anger is one example. The other one is passion for something else, right? Oh my God, that's amazing. I want to know more about that, or I want to be a part of that. So Mars is Mars. Mars is passion. Passion can be hot red. It can be sexual. It can be lustful. It can be moving. It can be motivational. Like you might just decide, I'm going to start losing weight. I'm going to start exercising, start my exercise regime. And maybe the Aries moon kicks in the extra energy you need to complete your goal. We'll see, but it is about energy and it is about your individuality. Okay. And I want you just to pay attention because that's how you're going to learn. Because then you meet an Aries and you're going to remember that energy about the Aries. No matter what kind of Aries you meet, I'm here to tell you, no matter what kind of Aries you meet, a soft one, a hard one, a kind one, a good mom, whatever, they have a streak in them that when they're done, they'll be done. Not just with you, but with whatever it is. If they're mad, they'll be mad. They might, whatever it is. Once you discover Aries and what really makes them angry, because that anger can be fast, unlike Taurus anger. You get a Taurus angry and you got to deal with it for a while. You get an Aries angry, it could be over pretty fast, but that's what you're learning. That's what you're learning with these. That's why the moon is so powerful, especially when we get a full one. Now, I'm taking a look at the chart, and I sent the chart out to everybody in my email, which you get on at 12house.com. That's 12house.com. So where is my little Mars? Here's the chart. So on the chart, we're looking at 6 degrees of Aries moon. And now somebody told me it is going to be involving a couple of asteroids, which again, that's for you and your own research. But what we have also going on that day is Venus is going to be at 22 Leo. Uranus is going to be at 22 Taurus, and that's called a square. So we're seeing, again, a push for independence. Something's going to break free. I do think this could have something to do with the actor strike and the writer strike. I think those are coming to a close. I think we're going to see the resolution for sure, because that's sort of saying breaking free, like Venus and Taurus. It's a Venus and Uranus. It's a day event. It could be like a 3-day event, but it is a moment on Friday where there is some desire for freedom. So if you are in a tentative situation where you're not feeling 100% in your relationship, let's say, you know that this full moon is coming in Aries. You know that Venus is going to be squaring Uranus. You know all that's coming up. This is a really good time to be honest with yourself, to just take a minute and see, are you telling the truth? Do you feel, because rather than have it come out in that, anger, rage, if you already have it out, if you're already telling the truth, if you're already seeing what is real, that push from Mars could turn into movement. Instead of using all that energy to finally tell the truth, you've already told the truth. Now it's energy's got to go somewhere. It's going to push you forward. Now, maybe it's about you've been holding a grudge and it's time to let it go. Maybe that's the push. Aries is going to bring it out. So this is the time. Mars is in Libra right now. The sun is in Libra right now. This is a time for there to be as much of no hiding. If you think of the scales, the scales came from the idea that they were measuring souls. If your soul was heavy to a feather, if your soul was heavy, that's your sin that you were carrying, right? So for you, is your soul heavy? Are you feeling like you're carrying too much and not finding a way to be able to express it and release it? That could be a goal, a way to lighten your soul, way to lighten your heart, a way to stop. If it's taking a lot of energy to stay angry, maybe there's another way. Maybe you can go release it somewhere, or maybe you need someone to talk to, but you might have to put down some personal bias. We've talked a lot about confirmation bias today. You can put down some bias and look for things like, if you're looking for why the person is making you mad and why they're a bad person, you're going to ignore all the good they do. That's confirmation bias, right? We've already talked, I've hammered that home today. The Aquarius moon is giving you an opportunity to maybe see something different, to maybe stay open to the fact that there could be some good here. Not to so you lie to yourself, but that you can release some of this charge. And hopefully, maybe the prayer is to be more neutral, to see more neutrality, to be able to see neutrality. Speaking of prayer, I want everybody to remember the gratitude board on 12listen.com, because that's a place not just to be grateful. It's not a prayer to God. It's a place to be grateful in general, to take a moment and feel that swell of gratitude. When you're in the space of being grateful, you know, that swell of gratitude, when you're feeling it, to use that to put down a request or a piece of gratitude as if it's already happened, or something that you're really grateful for, because it's not just the words you're typing down anonymously, by the way, and nobody ever will track you. You got my word on that. I swear to you, this is a completely anonymous board. And some people love to put their name in their emails, but it's automatically defaulted to anonymous. And you put in your request, and or not a request, you put in your gratitude, your statement of gratitude. Even if it is sort of a request because it hasn't happened yet, you're saying, I'm grateful that I got that raise that I've really been wanting. I can now do all this stuff with it. Even if it hasn't happened, you put it in because it brings up the energy to magnetically. I really believe it magnetically can attract more gratitude. And so that little piece, just the start of thinking in a grateful way changes us. Just the start. So if you're holding a grudge, what do you think that energy, what are you doing with that energy? What are you doing with that? Can you even imagine what it's like to feel it lifted? It doesn't give the other person a win or the situation a win. It gives you freedom. They're no longer taking up free rent in your head. They're no longer taking up free rent in your heart. They're no longer stopping a law of gratitude from working for you. And I don't like to talk too metaphysical, but it is sort of like the concept of love attracts love. And if you're carrying some things, don't feel bad about it. We get hurt. Life sucks in so many ways. And I can take a long time to simmer down on my grievances. Really, trust me. But if you can find one win somewhere where somebody gets off the hook because, they're not worth it. I got to let go. I got to feel the love again. I got to believe that their life wants them to win too. Then we have a chance of feeling better. And that's what this is all about, isn't it? It's about being able to feel better, to win in the most perfect way. All right, I'm going to check on you guys. A few comments in the house. Okay. Patricia's in the house. Thank you for being here so much. Hi, Anne. Thank you. Cute little gift. Lori's in the house. Hi, Lori. Lori has a show after Christina LaFrance, which is after me. I love that you all stay tuned. You're welcome, Alicia. I wish I could do more. Update, feeling discombobulated, hoping she said, you did it. It's just going from a fixed moon to an air sign. The cat moon was clarifying, rising moon and Mercury in Capricorn. This is Jackie. And now the moon is in my sun sign. Oh, good. Is opening me up. And it feels confusing. Thanks so much, Mark. I love you so. Thanks for teaching me just how to relax and observe. You give me way too much credit, Jackie. Thank you. Thank you. That's so sweet. So you guys, that can happen. When you go from one sign to the other, it's like the clarity. Like when I go from Pisces moon to the Aries moon, I get embarrassed at what I was like in the Pisces moon. But that's the moon I do love to indulge in my music, I love to just indulge, and it's fun, and it gets me into my place of like, oh God, I love this center place. And that moon And then the Aries comes along and you're like, oh my God, you were so indulgent. You were so lazy. Look at this place. That's what happens in the crash of the change. So it is fun to know where those moons are and when they're changing, because sometimes it can be abrupt. And the change from Pisces to Aries is often really abrupt. Some of them aren't so abrupt, right? But usually the transitional ones, when it's a really different element, it can be a little daunting. You notice that as the signs go in past Libra, they get more complicated. Did you all notice that? If you're like Aries through Libra time with the moon, it's easy. They're like, oh, I can handle that. I can handle that. The stupid bill is nagging me. I'm going to fix that, get tech support, whatever. Then it gets into Libra through Pisces, and it's like, oh, life is so big. And if you are one of those signs in the after Libra signs, you live there. It's a little easier for you all to untangle that. And so God bless you, because those are, notice that also the planet and the descriptions are tough. I mean, it's Pisces with Neptune, Aquarius and Uranus. These are the bigger planets. These are the bigger stories. Neptune, right? I mean, whoo. Pluto, Scorpio. I mean, the mythologies behind these are also very weird. They get like kind of crazy. So the complexity of the sign, plus you're gaining energy. Aries being the first, you go to Scorpio, you're 7 signs away, and all of that collection of wisdom is in you. All of that, like, it's a whole different thing. You're not wiser, so to say, but you do carry a lot of the imprint, a lot of the, let's call it the karma of the plant, of the signs in front of you. So the further off you go, so that leaves Pisces, the last one, is carrying everybody. That's why sometimes we look at Pisces and go, oh, but have no fear. The picture is a piranha and a goldfish, right? I mean, it's 2 fish, but one's a fighter. And you'll see Pisces can be some of the toughest, most street smart people you've ever met. I mean, they are actually scary in the depth of their wisdom. So we'll get into that later. I've been working on the Oracle cards, my Love Scope Oracle cards. I'm getting a lot of support and feedback. I'm really trying to think these through. It's turning into a book. I'm not going to be done anytime soon. I can tell you that, because boy, what it takes to get there for me is so much research. And I just want to do it right. So I've been thinking of you guys every time I sit and read, because I want to bring it back to the show and dance it with you. So, and you've been great participants in that. I do appreciate the feedback on the parents thing. Every week we're going to talk a different sign ruling that. Today we talked about Aquarius ruling the midheaven and the top of the chart and the bottom of the chart, the mom and dad. The opposite of that is Leo. So just to finish up with that, if you have Aquarius on one, you're going to have Leo on the other, right? So it just makes sense to complete this dichotomy. Wherever Leo is, we're going to have issues with the absent father or seeing the father as lacking. It's just the way it is. So remember, this is the lens at which the child looks through. It also could be absolute adoring, where you see that parent as amazing and capable, but it's a lens. Remember that. So usually if it's on the house of the mother, there is still the father issue. It's where the mother was the dominant, possibly narcissist of the family, depending on what planets are in there too, which we're not going to get into right now. So if you have Leo at the top of the chart, you probably had an absent father and a dominant mother. And if it was Leo at the bottom, it's actually kind of the same, where the father may be more accessible than the mom, but the mom is seen as basically taking care of everything. It'd be interesting to get your feedback. Take a look at how you're seeing each one. You can do the ruler too. So if you want to play with the idea of the sun is at the midheaven with your mom, and you look at where your sun sign is, you can also see if it's in, like, for example, Scorpio, then that makes her way more internal than it would if it was just Leo there. You can play with that. I wouldn't confuse myself with it, because it is the issue of being good enough and the issue of them being royalty. Sometimes we idolize parents with Leo at the at the mother's house, or we idolize the dad. We idolize them. Sometimes idolization means they were removed. They were royalty. They were things that needed to be appreciated or adored or to be the grand ones. Because that's what parents can be for us, right? Because they had the ability to kill us and to hurt us and to wound us. Sometimes all three. So all I'm getting you to understand is a lens looking through the window at your parents through that window, and not confuse it with who they really were. That's kind of irrelevant. Who people really are is irrelevant. We don't ever see who people really are. When you meet another person, you're seeing them through the lens of your sun sign, of your moon sign. They're seeing you through the lens of your rising sign, their rising sign. So it's a kind of picking apart thing. That's why dating, that's why getting to know somebody, that's why really getting to know someone can take years, like things you never knew about somebody. Also, my plug for why rising signs are so important. We marry the rising signs so often and then find out it was only the cover. We didn't even look inside. And there they are, and they're so different. Who the hell are you, right? So important. And that means sometimes if you know the time of birth, a lot of you don't know your times of birth. So we run it for the sun sign the same as the rising sign, and we get other ways to understand who you are. We look to the rising sign and get the time of birth of the people that you're dating and that you're serious with, because you're just seeing that. Promise you, you're just seeing that until you become more intimate and give time. And it depends on how long it takes, is whether it's a fixed sign on the rising sign, a cardinal sign on the rising sign, or a mutable sign on the rising sign. And it'll all depend. If it's a fixed rising sign, it takes a while to get to know them. It just takes a while. It takes years sometimes. I have friends with Taurus rising that it took years to get to know. Years. Okay? And it's because years don't seem like anything to a fixed sign. That's an irrelevant concept to a fixed sign. It is what it is. All right, we're getting close to wrapping up. What do we got going? I have, of course, we're reducing rates always, usually on a Wednesday and a Friday at 1-2 to support you guys at 12listen.com. I've invited, and she's accepted, Kelly McLean to put together a Halloween special day. And it's not going to happen on Halloween Day. It's going to happen before Halloween so we can enjoy the season. But a radio day where people come on board. Now, I have the most apathetic staff. I'm just outing them. Some of my staff are so apathetic. The ones who aren't on the radio, the ones who sign on, sign off. And it's apathy for the participation of the group. They're amazing in what they do. And sometimes they're just old timers and sometimes they're just private. But this is the first time this group has been so not rah-rah around an event. So, and I like to goad them about that because it is sort of like, what are you doing? Come out and play. But I can't. It's like herding cats. It's really amazing. So Kelly has agreed to put together a schedule of events that we can do. And we're inviting the staff to participate. And we'll see if we can get them. If not, you'll be hearing some of the same familiar voices that are always on the radio with you and that I'm happy to have on the radio with you. There's a few people that have written me letters that are having health issues. I just want us to hold the space in our hearts for their comfort. I think it makes a difference. You can pray, you can do whatever you want, but for me, it's awareness that there are people struggling. You might just be struggling not just with health. You might be struggling with something else. And that to know that there's a group of people that compassionately want you to do better and want you to know that they know that they could be facing the same thing and would want the same thing. So if we can send that out as a mass wish, please do. I think we've just about covered our show. Yes. Okay. So listen, everybody, thank you so much for being a part of me and a part of this show and a part of the 1-2 ecosystem. It's fabulous having you be a part of it. I hope you have a beautiful week. Happy full moon. Let's see how it does. We'll be able to talk about it next Monday. Please stay tuned for the amazing Christina LaFrance, who's coming up right after me.